Alright, so I have been a part of several forums and Facebook groups and so on and so forth that talk all about the different kind of controlling softwares and consoles used in the lighting industry and theater, concerts, churches, all kinds of stuff. And I've heard a lot of people say a lot of different things. And a lot of it is one sided and biased. I'm not saying all of it is, but I'm just saying there's a lot of people who have only used one or two consoles that just go out praising them. So I've used a lot of consoles. I'm still young and I still haven't used them all, but I do want to give a quick rundown of all of the softwares and all of the live consoles, full size consoles that I've used. I've made a little list over here. I'm just going to quickly run down them and give you my opinion and what I think those softwares or those different formats and different uses of control are great for and what they're horrible for. So, let's start. Um, let's start with one that I'm not quite sure about. Jan's Vista 2. Jan's Vista has a PC version of their software that they use on like the T2 and the S1, all their basic stuff. I don't know if they have a dongle yet for that software. Somebody else might know, might be more familiar with the Jan's stuff than I am. But my experience with the Jans has always been it's a sound guy's lighting console. If you really need a full size console and you don't have the time to train somebody on how to use or how to use it, Jan's Vista is the board you want to get. Several production companies around where I live use the Jan system just because there aren't a lot of lighting guys. I'm not saying it's a bad board. I'm just saying if you're using one, you don't really look like you have the knowledge to use like a hog or an MA because they're a totally different workflow. They're not totally different, but they're you have to have more experience to know how to run a hog or an MA. Okay, so that's my talk about that. Magic Q, Magic Letter Q. It's made by Chamsys. A friend introduced me to this. It's been about 5 months now that I've been using Magic Cube, playing around with it, mess with it. I think I can give a decent opinion on it. Um, it's great for concerts, for bands, and for really anything except for theater. And the reason I say that is because of its con. Um, it's it's very choppy. It doesn't smoothly transition between scenes or between cues. As you know, it's not smooth. It's very glitchy. It's very it's just hard to deal with. I come from a theatrical background, so Magic Q is a no go on my list. I have programs that I use for theatrical applications, and I stick to them because I know how to use them. Um, but once again, for somebody who's looking to go on the cheap, I mean, you can buy an Intech dongle. I think my friend got his for $150, and it works on MPC, which we'll talk about in a minute, and it also works on several other programs, Magic Cube being one of them. Uh, oh, hey, look, next on the list, MPC. This is Martin's version of the software-based stuff. Um, I haven't used a whole heck of a lot of it, but I have. Well, the guy who taught me how to use a hog, I know he swore by it, and people tell me that all the time. It's a pretty good software. You do kind of have to get used to it since Martin doesn't really do a lot of control systems, at least not as much as like Flying Pig and MA and all these people. Um, it really does take some getting used to, but it's set up very similar to another program we're going to talk to called My DMX. 3PC, which is the Hog PC version. Basically, it's a Hog on a computer screen, and you have to click all of the buttons. If you're familiar with Hog, you have to click all of the buttons that you would normally hit on a board, on a console. That gets kind of annoying because I use a Hog IPC on a very regular basis. We're talking several times a week. And having to go around and click all that on a screen is just annoying. So if you're not used to a full size console, okay, Hog is great. At least it's not going to totally give out on you. It's reliable stuff. Um, and you know what it is. It's got a reputation behind it. So that's my thing on that. Chevet Show Express. Okay, Chevet came out with their version of, again, my DMX, which we'll talk about here in a minute. They actually stole my DMX 1.0, which is hilarious. As soon as American DJ discontinued my DMX 1.0, a company that they recommend called DMX Soft, and then Chevet use the MyDMX 1.0 software just as their normal software. Chevet does have a couple of unique characteristics to it. They've changed a few things, but in my opinion, it makes it a little more complicated than it should be. Good software for DJs, mobile DJs. If you're looking to a lot of layered effects and things, you've got scanners or little mirror ball effects that are LED and change colors. It's all good stuff for that. Lasers, great. I mean, it's great stuff for that. But once again, theatrical background, I don't use that kind of stuff. American DJ 1.0. Okay, this is one that I just mentioned. A lot of people, it was discontinued back in 2011 or 2012, and now a lot of companies use it. Great. It really is a solid software, and that goes also into the Show Express and what did I say? MPC. Well, MPC's is a remake, but Chevet uses it verbatim. 1.0. The thing about 1.0 is it is a fabulous learner's program. Very simple, very easy to use. The effects are very straightforward. The visualizer is what sells it for me. The visualizer on that program is spectacular. It is so easy to use. It's 3D. It does the patterns very well. It does the colors very well. It does color mixing. It does intensity. It's very smooth. And I have used it on so many of my theatrical lighting designs so that you actually don't have to go into the field and do stuff. Now, we're going to talk about MAs, or sorry, we already talked about MAs? No, that's the last one. Okay. MA has a good visualizer. Magic Q has a good visualizer, and American DJ 1.0 they all have good visualizers. MPC has a visualizer as well. 3PC has a visualizer. All on top of that, which is the hog version. They're just not as good. They're not as versatile. They're not as smooth. They're not as nice, in my opinion. Next, MyDMX 2.0. 2.0 is like MyDMX 1.0 on steroids. I think MyDMX 2.0 basically took everything that was good about American DJ 1.0, mixed it with Jan's Vista's software, and then added a little personal flair to it. They did a fabulous job with that software. I think if you're in the theater world especially, that is a very, very, very good software to check out. I've vouched by it. I use it all the time. I come from a theatrical background. If you come from a background where you're used to layering cues and layering submasters and stuff like that, American DJ doesn't do submasters. They don't do layering at all. You have to create stuff by hand. So if you're not used to that, don't go that direction. MAPC, last one. I learned on an MA. That was ridiculous. So I'm kind of used to the MA workflow, kind of. But I didn't get to use it very much though. MAPC I have used quite a bit of. They have a dongle. I know they have all that stuff. They have command wings. They have the new DOTS series, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. MAPC is hard to do unless you have a lot of screens. Let's face it, the MA consoles have 3, 4, 5 screens a piece, and they're all touch screens. So you can have a visualizer, you can have your palettes, you can have your scenes, you can have your cues, you can have everything that you need to see right in front of you. But when you're doing it on a laptop, it's just real hard. It's hard. So unless you have a lot of screens or a big setup, or you're willing to spend the money to have that big setup or have touch screens and all that stuff, MAPC is just not worth it. It really isn't. Now, on the other hand, it is MA. So it's going to be ridiculously good and versatile. And it's going to have fixture profiles for every fixture known to man. But, again, if you're not willing to spend the money, don't go that direction. Now, that's all the softwares that I've used. I know there are more out there. I'm not giving opinions on every software in the world because I couldn't give accurate opinions on them. I haven't used them all. These are the ones that I've used. Um, Consoles, full size consoles. I'm not going to give exact models because I've used several, and especially when it comes to Jans, the models don't matter. It's the same software for each thing. When you hook up a screen to it, it shows the same thing. Anyway, Jans. Let's talk about Jans. Jans is a reasonably priced option for a lot of people like churches. I've seen here locally. I've seen them at Whitesburg Baptist Church. Local group Sound Source Productions uses them. TLS, Theatrical Lighting Systems, which used to be in town, they're now out of business, used them, sold them to Sound Source Productions, I assume. And good stuff, very easy to learn. Learning curve is non-existent. It's real simple. Real simple. It's the American DJ of full-size consoles. If you want to get into that stuff, I mean, like I said, it's just real easy. Real easy. There's tutorials online that are super simple. There are, I mean, really good manuals, really good layout, very intuitive, color-coded buttons, scribble strips on some of them. I mean, especially the ones like the T2, the big ones. You know, they've got customizable scripts above each playback or each submaster. So real easy to figure out and just do a good show. However, because the learning curve is so non-existent, because you can spend literally just a day learning it, just one day, and pretty much have it down enough to make a show at least. As soon as a lighting person, which honestly lighting people are going to be the only ones looking at you, to be honest. When a lighting person, experienced person, lighting person like me, looks at you and sees that you have a Jans, you know, how are we supposed to say that you're a really skilled LD or a skilled programmer when you've got a Jans? You know, I don't, now that's my opinion. In churches, you know, you've got a volunteer staff. You don't have time to train people for years, months, you know, weeks, months, years, however long it takes to properly teach you the entire console. So Jans is great for that, and it's reasonably priced. Again, it's not cheap, but it's reasonably priced. Um, so that's my Jans thing. Pros, cons, you got it. Okay, Hog. Hog has done many evolutions over the years. From the Hog 500, which is a really small console, and has like 5 playbacks, I think, and then a little screen and 3 or 4 parameter wheels, all the way up until the new Hog 4 stuff, which just came out in the past year. Or no, it's been several years. It's been about 2 years, maybe. Don't take my word on that one. Anyway, Hog is good stuff. My only complaint about them is their customer service. Customer service and their profiling is wonky and bad. I've spent weeks, my friends have spent months trying to find profiles for fixtures, particularly the most common moving head, I guess now, the Platinum Spot 15R. Trying to get an extreme profile for that was a challenge where I work. So keep that in mind. But other than that, very reliable. I've never had a Hog crash on me, but I've seen it happen to other people. People who try to layer too many effects, or you're trying to do too many effects at once, it'll start glitching around, doing stuff like that. But otherwise, very reliable, very good stuff. And I'm sure, I haven't used Hog 4 yet, but I'm sure they fixed a lot of glitches like that with the Hog 4. Now, if you're not willing to pay the whole extreme amount for like a Hog 4 full bore with 5 wings, you might go for a new thing that they have. It's like a command wing, but it's called the Hedgehog. It's good stuff. It's Hog 4. It's the black thing, and it's just a command wing. It's Hog command wing. Really nice. I think it's got a touchscreen on it, a little parameter thing. it looks really cool, and I'd love to have somebody try it and send me some feedback on it. Maybe I'll do a review or something like that. But that's Hog. Now, the mother of all lighting control systems, the MA. I said earlier, I learned on an MA. I was taken in by a professional, and he let me use a $57,000 light console. That would be the MA2 Lite. Um, those are massive consoles. Those are for the people who want the absolute most out of their show. Now, bottom line is, if you do not have a skilled technician, or you do not have good fixtures, or if you don't have a good setup, a good rig, buying a console like an MA is stupid. It just is. However, if you've got all of those things in order, and you've got somebody who knows their way around a real a real lighting console, an MA is a great buy, because those things are versatile as all get out, and they have effects that you won't find on any other lighting console. Period. Um, for instance, pixel mapping on a Hog is just a pain. Pixel mapping on a Jans is a little bit easier. At least you can see it. And on an MA, you can see it and you can manipulate it in just a bajillion different ways. Plus, you can use it as a media server, which is fabulous. So anyway, MA is absolutely the most versatile, the most useful, and the most controlling. It's just a monster. It's a beast of a light board. But you've got more options and more capabilities with that board than you have with anything near it. But once again, it's a $57,000 to $58,000 light board. That's not lights, that's not cables, that's not rigging, that's not nothing except for that board. But it can make that much of a difference. So, in recap, if you're on the cheap, softwares are great. But if you're doing a solid rig, or you're doing a production company, or you're doing something big, you might want to go with a full-size console. Start off with a command wing, like the MA command wing that they came out with a while back, or maybe a dot series. That's the new thing for MA, is the dot series. I think they're within $5,000 a piece, a section. Jans has also got some really small stuff. Hog has the Hedgehog, like I said earlier. But if you're wanting to go on the cheap, if you're a DJ, if you're just starting off, or you just do small gigs like me, I just use small softwares. Got a little DMX transmitter. I've got the My DMX Buddy, which is like 250 channels of control, which is all I need for my personal stuff. Then it's all good. But yeah, if you're Cirque du Soleil or Disney, then you can use an MA. But if you're just a church, you might just want to go with a Jans. Or if you're a DJ, you might want to go with Chauvet Show Express. All I have to say about anything is that there's no one save all. There's nothing that's cheap and fully versatile and portable and all that stuff. So make sure that your talent on stage and your equipment and your talent using the equipment, your technician talent, match the board. Make sure that all of those things match, because you have one thing that's so much better or so much worse than any of the rest of it, and your show's not going to be as good as you're probably going to want it. So just make sure, this is my piece of advice, just make sure that your equipment and your personnel match. So that's all I got. Hopefully that wasn't too long. Hopefully I didn't bore you to sleep. I hope you guys have a great one, and good luck on any and all of your lighting, scenic, or sound ventures. Thank you.